Hello, everyone. Welcome to Seek and Destroy. This is going to be a Seek and Destroy vlog, live stream slash vlog. So I'll make it one of the Seek and Destroy episodes. And today we're going to talk about The Crow. This is something, obviously, I've tried to do on my channel before and tried to, have a couple conversations about this character. And, it just never really stuck or never really, went anywhere. Originally, we started it because they were remaking the movie and they were going to do like a Crow movie with Jason Momoa. And because that fell through, I decided not to continue, making Crow episodes for a while. And because of that is why I deleted the original first episode. So we'll just, if we cover anything Crow related or anything that's not Venom, obviously, that's what the Seek and Destroy show is for. So just give me 1 second. I'm just setting up my live stream. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a cut of the second movie, the Crow City of Angels, that was originally, the movie was directed by Tim Pope, and he never got to really realize his vision for the sequel of the movie because of interference and tampering from the studio, and in particular Harvey Weinstein, from what I'm understanding. Realize his vision for the sequel of the movie. So yeah, now that we know the audio works, perfect. Got it. And we got my live chat up so I can see what people are saying if they come in. So again, thank you for being here. So yeah, we're going to talk about all that stuff. This is going to probably be like an hour to an hour and a half, maybe longer, depending on how long it takes to go through this box. I am a huge fan of the Crow franchise, and I love the first movie. It honestly changed how I looked at movies. Up until that point, I think that hit me right at the right age. I think I was maybe 13 or something like that when the movie came out, and I saw it opening weekend. It was happened to come out around the time of my 13th birthday, and it was the first movie that made me want to understand how movies were made. It was the first time I heard phrases like, in terms like filter, because they shot, not because the band, obviously, who was around at the time, but because the director of the first film, Alex Proyas, who directed the first Crow movie starring Brandon Lee, the late, amazing Brandon Lee, he said that he wanted to shoot the film in black and white, and so did Brandon, but the studio wouldn't let them. So what they did was they filmed through multiple filters on the camera. And I was like, what's that mean? And then so I looked that up and started to do research on how how you make a movie. And then obviously when I heard about Brandon's passing, I wanted to know how an accident like that could happen, which led me further down the spiral of how do you make movies. So I owe a lot to the first Crow movie, and it led me to the comic. So I saw the movie first, and it led me to the comic book series. And I have the first issue here from Caliber Press. I can't remember if this is the original first issue, because they did re-release the book a couple times. And in fact, actually, this one over here is another re-release. It's one I got signed by James O'Barr in 2004, and that was the first time second time actually, I had met him in person. The first time was at a Dragon Con, I think, and I think it was around the time the third Crow movie was about to come out, called Salvation. So that was like around 2000-ish, maybe 2001. So yeah, so if anyone comes in, feel free to jump in the chat. If you know anything about the Crow, you have any questions, that's what we're going to talk about today while we unbox a series of trading cards. I found this on eBay for like $10. And for those of you who remember that I did an episode kind of like this before, way back when, on the original Seek and Destroy show, and I think even around the same number. I think this is episode 54 or 55 of our Seek and Destroy vlogs, like somewhere in there, 53. We're somewhere in there. And I believe in my original series that I did, I think around the 50s was when I unboxed a box of these. And so I have that set here in this binder. We have the whole series of cards from the second film, the Crow City of Angels. And I mean, the cinematography in this movie was really, really good. And the director of the second one, like I said, Alex Proyas, directed the first one, and then he went off to do a movie called Dark City afterwards with David Goyer, who wrote the script, and a couple other writers, I think. And that turned out to be a phenomenal movie as well. But David Goyer at the same time was also being sought out to write the second Crow movie. And so he did, and Tim Pope came on board, who has a background doing music videos, I think, for bands like The Cure and things like that. And The Cure is obviously a big inspiration for the Crow franchise and the comic book, the original comic book by James O'Barr, who is this gentleman here. And this is a picture of us, I think, in 2004 when he signed that book that's in the background there. This is a picture of us. I think I was maybe in my early 20s. and it was my second time meeting him, and he was just signing a bunch of stuff there. And I went up to him, and there was hardly any line when I went up to him. So I actually talked to him for a good 15 minutes, I think, about the crow and just and what it means to him. And I just wanted to hear it from him. Of course, I've seen him in interviews talk about how painful dealing with the Crow franchise is, because for those who don't know, when he made, the first book, and this is the special edition of it here, he wrote and drew this whole thing. He's actually my biggest inspiration for the book I did with Alain Vital, where in this book, in The Crow, he puts all of his inspiration and pain on the page. He puts poetry in here. It's a very unconventional graphic novel, if when you have it collected like this. Even in single issue, it was paced very oddly and interestingly, and that's what this kind of set the stone, or set the bar for me, I guess, for comic books and graphic novels, is how this is not paced like a movie at all. It's not a 3-act structure. It's a little bit all over the place, but in a very coherent way, which is leads to, it kind of represents Eric Draven and James O'Barr when he created this, about a guy, and this Eric Draven comes back from the dead. For those who don't know the story of The Crow, it's about a guy named Eric Draven. Him and his fiance get killed on the eve of their wedding, which is also happens to be around Halloween in Detroit, I believe, and on a night called Devil's Night, which used to be a real thing. And so we're like a bunch of arson fires were just lit and everything, and burned the city down and stuff. And it was just pretty dark times. And I don't know if there's still a version of it goes on nowadays, but I know it's not called Devil's Night anymore. And this is kind of focuses on in that time period. And so a guy and his fiance, Eric Draven and Shelley Webster, they die. And Eric comes back a year later on the anniversary of his death, on the anniversary of Shelley's death. And they come back and look at that. There's poetry in here and stuff. I mean, it's so great, this book, but yet comes from such a sad place. So, James wanted to deal with this pain that happened to him in his real life, where he was in love with a woman. He asked her to come visit him at night, and she was like, "Look, I just got off like a double shift. I'm tired." And he says, "Please come over," because James didn't have a car at that point. And she said, "Okay, fine." And she got in her car, drove over to him, but on her way, she got hit and killed by a drunk driver. So, you can imagine, if you've been in that situation. Obviously, I feel so tremendously for you, but if you haven't, you can empathize big time, and you can understand how someone would feel responsible in a way for that, or could feel responsible, even though obviously this is the world we live in, right? Things go bad and happen to, bad things happen to good people all the time, and it's no one's fault really. But James internalized that and created The Crow, about someone who died with their loved one, but was able to, in the purest way possible, get brought back to life to literally tip the scale back. Okay, evil won that day, but good has to win now. So a year later, a crow resurrects Eric Draven and gives him the powers of being invincible for 2 days. And Eric has 2 days to put the wrong things right. And the movie did such a great job, bringing that to life and everything. And so I'm, we're going to talk about a little bit of that. But as we get into this box here, the sequel was a very different story. There was a young girl named Sarah in the first movie who was like friends with Eric and Shelley. And she's kind of the one that we kind of see the story through her eyes, in a way, her and Eric's eyes. And she represents the person, who loved the two of them and who knew them. And she represents that character. And what she brings to the first story is, someone who misses her friends, especially Shelley. And when Eric comes back, she's like, "Can Shelley come back too?" And of course, Eric's like, "No, I'm just here for, this time to do this thing. I'm just here for 2 days to kill these bad guys, and that's pretty much what I got to do." And so she didn't really know Eric the way she knew Shelley. She was big, she was closer to Shelley, obviously. So it created some cool dynamics. So in the second one, that character Sarah, she was like a teenager in the first movie. She grows up in the second movie, and the movie's about her and how she moves to Los Angeles from Detroit, and she comes across a character named Ash Corvin, who is resurrected. And Ash Corvin is played here by Vincent Perez. And thank you all for the thumbs up. I appreciate that very much. And like I said, if you have any comments, feel free to jump in and throw some comments in there. But The City of Angels, this book, I bought this. This is the diary of the film. And the reason I bought this is because like I said, the second movie got butchered, from what I understand, by the studios, in particular Harvey Weinstein, who we all know is a total scumbag human being. But also with this film, David Goyer, who wrote the script, and Tim Pope, who directed it, they wanted to make something different than the first movie. They wanted to make kind of a drama with some action scenes in it, but let things linger and play out, and be more of a slower paced, movie, but still have, like, but build to that, big moments, so that they paid off more, right? So and also so they weren't just making an action movie in respect to the first one. They didn't want to do what Brandon did, because he had already nailed it completely perfectly with the first film, with Alex Proyas and John Shirley, who wrote the movie. Like, they nailed it. And so Tim Pope and Goyer were like, we don't want to redo that at all. And if you ask them to this day, they'll tell you this is not the movie, like the version we see, that you can rent and buy. It is not the version they made. And then they even put out a director's cut version when it came out on VHS, which I owned at one point, and DVD, and there's nothing director's cut about it. There's a couple little extra scenes in there, but it's still the same movie. It's almost the same movie, just with a couple extra scenes. But yeah, there is a cut, and I wanted to read this because this actually tells the story of the second movie and the things that were changed. I mean, look at Vincent Perez looks amazing. They did such a good job with his design to make him look different than Brandon, but yet still, pay tribute to that. They put Sarah in the movie because Sarah was able to paint his face to make him look like Brandon Lee's character, Eric Draven, so that there was a reason why he had the same face paint. Iggy Pop, who was supposed to play Fun Boy in the first movie, but he couldn't due to touring. He was touring at that time, and conflict. He couldn't, be in the movie, so he decided to join in on the second movie. Since himself, Iggy Pop, inspired the character of Fun Boy in the comic, James O'Barr was like, "Would you want to do the second one?" And he was like, "Absolutely." And Iggy Pop even credits Tim Pope, the director of this movie, as someone who taught him how to act. And there's a great cast in here. I mean, Thomas Jane, who played the Punisher later on, he's in this movie. He plays like a small time bad guy in this one. There's so many. The one of the original Power Rangers, the way I'm blanking on her name, Tran, her last name, and I'm blanking on her name. I'm so sorry. And she, rest in peace. She actually passed away soon, like about a year or two after this movie came out. And yeah, she was in this movie, and she kicked a lot of butt as Callie. And there's James O'Barr. So yeah, this book will kind of gives you an insight on the version of the movie they were gonna make. And I've always wanted to make a book like this. Like, that's one of my goals in Hollywood and everything, was to make a book that is like a love letter to a film. Whether it's a film I'm passionate about or not, whether it's just a job or whatever, I've always wanted to make something like this. And this is the kind of another inspiration for the Venom vlog. Is this book is like a video, it's like a diary, like literally a diary of this film. Whereas that's where I feel the Venom vlog is. It is a diary of the character Venom, and it talks. And in that show that we create, we talk about behind the scenes stuff. We talk about the making of movies. We talk about a lot of things, and that to me is my modern day visual representation of a book like this, because it's something I've always wanted to do. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through these trading cards. We're just going to open them up and just kind of talk about, some of the images we see. And let me fold this in. When I was a kid, a box of these cards cost probably, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks, maybe more. I can't remember. And I did own these. I think we were living in Jacksonville, Florida, when the second movie came out. And because I moved around a lot as a kid, so I think that's where we were living. And what I loved about this set of trading cards was that there was merchandise. The first movie didn't have a ton of merchandise. It actually, it was a bummer that it didn't. So for the second one, they made up for that by making lighters, which I owned, t-shirts, which I owned, hats, which I owned. I started working. I was like I said, about 15 maybe when the second movie came out in like 1997. So I was maybe like 14 or 15, and I had a job. Like I was working like just doing odd jobs and stuff for people. One at my local local comic store, but then also like helping out nearby. I think there was a grocery store that I helped out a little bit, bagging stuff. And then later when we moved to South Carolina, I was actually like watering lawns in our neighborhood because our neighborhood was just being built and we had just got a house there. My mom just got us our first, our second house, I guess. So and again, my memories are all jumbled, so I could be wrong on some of the timeline there, but I remember working and mailing away to Kitchen Sink Press to order some of this stuff, which sadly I don't own any of anymore. I don't know what happened to any of it. Same with the cards. So a couple years ago, I bought one of these boxes for 20 bucks on Amazon or on eBay actually, and I got a whole set, but I wanted to do another box so we could talk about the Tim Pope cut. And luckily I found this for $10 with like $2 shipping. So, and this just came in the mail today. So that's why that was the inspiration for this video was, I get another box of cards to open and we can just talk about the Crow in general and just share our thoughts on it. So again, I don't know how many people are here. I got 3 thumbs up. Thank you. And 2 people watching, it says, but if anyone has any comments about the Crow, feel free to make them down below and we'll talk about it some more. But otherwise, I'll just keep going on and on, just keep rambling. One thing I like is that each of these cards comes with a tattoo. And this was also an inspiration. This movie was an inspiration for me wanting to get tattoos and why just a few years later I went and got my first one because the third movie was about to come out and I had rewatched the first 2. And after seeing the second one again, I was like, yeah, I got to get into it. I got to get a tattoo. So each pack comes with a tattoo. So we're going to set that over there. And then also this street art. This was one of the first times I had seen on this level beautiful street art and kind of the beauty in tagging and things like that. And so they actually hired, and they talk about it in the Diary of the Film book, they hired an artist to come and do all the tags for the movie and come up with the designs for like the drugs they use and stuff like that. So pretty awesome. I really, like I said, these movies, even though the second one is, in my opinion, I don't hate the second one. I think a lot of people do. I think it's a very underrated film, but it was one of those first movies that I saw the beauty in that the movie didn't realize it had beauty in it. Like I was like, wow, there's real acting in some of these scenes, but they feel so cut short and so rushed. It turns out they were. Harvey Weinstein actually edited this movie down to like 80 something minutes from like a 2-hour cut. He took a lot of the movie out, and apparently the movie did have a lot of dramatic scenes, did have moments kind of linger almost like in a Tarantino kind of way where they didn't cut right away. You kind of felt the emotion of the characters and felt the stillness of the room and things like that. And Tim Pope, I think, had a really good vision. From everything I've read and stuff, I would say, is it probably a genius movie? I don't know. We could argue that all day. We'll never know to be sure. But is it a better movie than the one we got? I strongly feel like it is. So that's why I wanted to name this episode Release the Pope Cut, because so many people are on this Release the Snyder Cut. And I said, wow, I remember being a fan of something like these Snyder Cut fans are, where they just want a cut of their movie from the director they love. And that's what I wanted from The Crow. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, because the Crow City of Angels was the first movie that I got so invested in that I went online in message boards and screamed, where's the original cut of this film? And so that's why I completely kind of, even though I don't agree fully with like wanting a Snyder cut version of the movie, I'm not a big Snyder DC fan, although I do like his other movies, but I understand that passion completely. And that's where my level of respect comes from for those fans who are making a noise, because I was never able to rally other people together to make noise. But these people have for Snyder Cut, and it's inspiring. So that's another reason why I wanted to make this video. What's up, dude? How's it going? When the first Crow came out, I was still young enough for my parents could control what I saw, and boy, I was not allowed to see it. Oh man, that's a little bit of a bummer. I do remember hearing the various rumors as to what happened on set. Yeah, about Brandon. Yeah, totally. By the way, thanks for being here. How are you? How was your Thanksgiving? How's everyone at home? How's the family? How's update me too on how you're doing, man, because it's so great to talk to you. And so we have Callie here. This is again played by and I'm blanking on her name. She was a member of the Power Rangers. She was the original Yellow Ranger, actually. And as far as I know, this was the one of the only other things she did after Power Rangers. And then tragically, I think by a car crash or something, I can't remember, she died a year or two after this movie came out. But look at the cinematography in this movie. I mean, these shots are freaking awesome. That's him standing over Callie. And the thing is this is a cut scene here. So what you're seeing right here, this is all from the same sequence, these two cards. And this is a No Warrior's Death in the original cut. And you can find this footage on YouTube and stuff. In the movie, the version you see, the crow Ash, he throws Callie out the window, and that's where the battle ends. She just hits the ground, and you just presume she dies. It's not true, actually. Like in the original cut, he throws her out the window, and then I think he transforms into a crow, or the crow absorbs his soul and takes it down to the street level. And in the blink of an eye, he's standing over Callie. So it's like he's looking at her falling out the window. She hits the car, hits the ground. And then by the time she hits the ground, he's walking out of the alley right behind her. It's like a ghost, like a spirit. And I'm like, wow, that's such a cool concept. Why was that not kept in the movie? And he comes over to her because Callie in the movie, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about a lot of spoilers in this movie, she kills Ash's son. So in the first movie, it was Eric Draven and his wife, Shelley Webster, that die. In this one, it's Ash Corvin and his son, Danny, who die. A little boy, literally like an 8-year-old boy. And at the opening of the movie, she shoots the 8-year-old boy, his son, in the head right in front of him, right in front of his father. And so this is why he doesn't kill her right away. She wants a warrior's death. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to get one. I'm going to let you bleed out like a rat on the street. I'm not going to give you a quick death like you gave my son. I'm going to make your pain last as long as possible. And that was the original cut of this film. And they cut that out completely. Oh, it's such a bummer. Mia Kirshner, a phenomenal actress, went on to do a great role for a character named Jenny in The L Word, and she was really great in that show. You love to hate her. By the end of that series, she got really nasty and evil in a lot of ways. And then her boyfriend in the first season was Eric Mabius, who actually played the third Crow, Crow Salvation. So there's like a little Crow connection with the two of them. So that's actually why I watched the first season of The L Word, was because it had her, Mia Kirshner, and Eric Mabius in it. And I had met Eric Mabius in 2000 at Dragon Con when I went to a screening of the Crow Salvation a year before it was released on video. And he was such a nice guy. And so I vowed to support his acting career ever since then, which I still do to this day. He was in the Resident Evil movie, the first one. He played Matt Addison, who eventually turns into Nemesis. And then he was also in The L Word, and he's been in some other stuff since then too. So yeah, really great actor. So yeah, these are just some really great scenes. Judah Earl, wasn't a big fan of Judah Earl's character in this movie. I think he's a little, the way they cut the movie, I feel like they probably took out some of the drama from him, but because he just comes across just on the cartoony side, and so do all the villains. And it's like, yeah, I bet you there was a little bit more to some of these characters. Maybe not so much a character like Spider Monkey, who's like a drug addict, but some of the other ones I feel like probably gave a different kind of performance than the version we saw in the film. So I don't feel anything one way or the other on the Crow, but I do enjoy listening to you talk about things you're passionate about. Oh, dude, thanks, man. Thanksgiving was good. Spent it in Florida with the same parents who wouldn't let me watch The Crow when I was a kid. Nice. Way to bring it back full circle already. Yeah, my mom, she was totally okay with me at 12 or 13 watching movies like The Crow, because I was a big fan of Brandon Lee and Bruce Lee. And so when she saw that it was Brandon in the movie, and I had saw that movie, Trouble in Little Tokyo or something, not Big Trouble in Little China. I know that's a different movie, but it's like Trouble in Little Tokyo, and it's Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren, and Tia Carrera. It's a good movie. It's actually it's a fun movie actually, and I was just a huge fan of his. That, and he did a movie called Laser and Rapid Fire, and I was just a big fan of his, just like I was his dad's. And my mom was like, and I was taking martial arts at the time because of Bruce Lee and because of Brandon, and I wanted to be like Brandon Lee. I thought he was the coolest guy in movies. And my mom was like, okay, if you want to go see his new movie, you can. So yeah, so she took me opening day. And I cried when I left the theater, knowing he was gone, and that was going to be the last movie I was going to see him in. I cried walking out of the theater. And then my mom asked me, she's like, trying to change the subject. She was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to make movies like The Crow. Yeah, how about I make YouTube videos about The Crow now, Mom? Still trying to keep that dream alive. So yeah, all these great shots at pop. But yeah, the cinematography in this movie is so phenomenal. They made miniatures for the set for LA. So when they're moving the camera through LA, it's not like a flying, helicopter shot. It's actually a miniature, and they're just moving the camera through a miniature, and it's pretty awesome. I can't remember this actress's name. She's went on to be something kind of big too. She was on a bunch of, she was like on a TV show. So yeah, and she's her name is Hope, I think, in the movie. All right, let's catch up on comments. How was yours, brother? Yeah, my Thanksgiving was good. I slept most of it because of my work schedule and because of how I've been feeling lately. And then on Black Friday, I had to work a double at my two jobs. So I opened at one job and closed at the other. And so I rested most of Thanksgiving because I knew that Black Friday was going to be so intense for me. So is the Crow a good guy or a bad guy or morally gray antihero? It depends on who you ask. I would say Brandon Lee has my favorite take on the Crow. The Crow is the person, I guess, because the Crow itself is, I would say, I think there was a book that came out of a bunch of short stories, and James O'Barr, who created the Crow, I think that might be the tattoo I'm missing, because I am missing a few cards in this binder here from this set, and so I think that might be one of them. Awesome. So it depends on who you ask, but like the Crow itself is like the force, right? It's the one that, like, it's the reason why Eric Draven or Ash Corvin or whatever comes back. I think there was a short story written by James O'Barr in one of the books. There was like a book that came out that had a bunch of short stories of Crow in it, and it was a novel. And in it opens up with like Noah on the ark, and he sends a dove and a crow out to look for land, and the dove comes back with like a twig showing him which direction land is in, but the crow never returned. And according to James O'Barr, the crow itself, the bird, went on, into the afterlife. It didn't come back because it went into the spirit realm, and it became this avatar of spirits in a way. So the crow is just there to set things right. It is a scale tipper. If you are if evil wins, like on the day the crow dies, Eric Draven and his wife Shelley Webster get killed on the anniversary, on the night before their wedding. They get killed. A horrible atrocity has occurred, and that's tipped the scale in evil too much. Evil just won too much on that night, and so the crow has to sit on the other side of the scale and tip it back. And the way it does that is by reanimating sometimes people who die to get revenge on the people who killed them. So the crow changes, but it has a purpose. I would say the purest purpose ever, which is to right a wrong. So I would say that he's more hero than villain, but I would say he's more hero than anti-hero too, because I would say besides killing, which is kind of vigilante-ish, and not so much anti-hero-ish specifically, but I would say the Crow, the character Eric Draven or Ash or whoever it is that comes back, they're more good than evil, and they're more good than anti-hero, I think, too, because they care about the people in their lives that they left behind. So yeah, I would say there's more of a good component than an evil, definitely, and more of a good than even an anti-hero in my mind. So somewhere between hero and anti-hero, I think, is where the Crow falls. I'm kind of the same. What's up, Suki? How's it going? I'm kind of the same. I only saw scattered clips, but never really saw the whole movie. My dad is the fan, not me. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that happens. I mean, it's definitely because the movie came out like in 94 or 5 or something like that. And then the sequel, this one came out in 97. Like, look at these shots, man. This was filmed in LA, and I have gone to some of the locations that the second movie was filmed in, and I have met a bunch of crew members that worked on this movie since being out here. I even worked with some of them on some of the projects I've done when I was working in film and television, and I would strike up conversations, and I would ask people, did you work on The Crow too? What can you tell me about it? And they'll be like, you know what, I didn't, but so-and-so did. Let me go get him. And, so yeah, really just, I'm obsessed with these movies, and especially the second one's original cut. Yeah, and then I know you can't probably see too well. There we go. Try to get some clarity there. Look at that Tim Bradstreet artwork. The Crow 2 is what introduced me to Tim Bradstreet. I will say modern Crow comics, I hate all of them. I don't even give them a chance. I think there's one out right now by Tim Seeley, and I can't remember who the artist is, but that's my biggest pet peeve with Crow books. Typically, if it is the Crow, to me, it needs to be, like I said, this was an inspiration for Elan Vital for me. When I did Elan Vital, I had to write the story. I wanted to make music for it. I wanted to draw it in different forms and use different techniques like poetry and things like James O'Barr did with The Crow. I wanted to make my version of where I put all my pain and all of my inspiration and all my blood into one book. And that's what James O'Barr did. So when you make sequels and stuff, if you don't give at least half of that, you're not going to get my attention. I think the art is a big thing for The Crow. I mean, like let's go real quick and just look through some of this art again by James O'Barr. It's not conventional. It's, first of all, it's black and white, which is amazing. It's not conventional comic book style. The panel layouts aren't conventional comic book layouts. There's a couple pages of it, but then it gets into these crazy spreads and things like this where the art style changes. Now, granted, I think some of these are added pages because this is a special edition, and I think he went back and made like a director's cut in a way. So some of the art style does change, but it even changes from page to page and panel to panel sometimes. And I like that. It adds to the flow of it, which is an unnatural flow, because coming back from the dead is an unnatural thing, and they capture that. James O'Barr captures that so well. So when you ask Brandon Lee, like, is the Crow a good guy or bad guy, he'll tell you, well, the Crow is pure and righteous, and he is, Eric Draven is pure and righteous in his mission. So it's not about really good and evil to him. It's about righting a wrong to an extent, or just getting revenge. But it also is about a guy who's a little bit mad and a little bit insane. And he compares the Crow as like, all right, well, Eric Draven, if you hear voices, like let's say someone who's really far beyond, in the mental health area, to where they're hearing voices. Eric Draven is someone who does hear a voice, but it's the sanity voice. The Crow itself is a very sane voice. It is a very rational, to the point voice. I mean, granted, it's telling him to kill people, but it's telling him to kill very bad people for a very specific reason, and a reason that Eric himself would want them to die for, which is his own death and the death of the woman he loved most. So it's complicated. It's complicated, and that's why I love the book being in black and white. And originally they wanted to shoot the first movie in black and white. Brandon and Alex Proyas both wanted it in black and white because they wanted Eric, when he comes back, he's dead now, he's in limbo. The world is not bright and colorful anymore. And his mission is very black and white. It's kill the bad guys. That's it. Because they're bad. It's very to the point. But they wanted to shoot the movie in black and white, and then the flashbacks of Eric's natural life, they were all going to be in bright Technicolor, where he goes up and hugs, his wife, and the sun is setting behind them, and it's like all this orange and yellow in the background. So they wanted to shoot the movie 80% in black and white and the other 15% in color when they show Eric's like real life, his old life. And the studio said absolutely not, and I think that was a big mistake. So what they did instead was they shot the movie through a bunch of filters, like I said earlier, and they were able to bleed out most of the color. And then in any flashback scenes, they were able to brighten the color in post. So yeah, and check that out. It's two goblins or demons fighting, but it kind of symbolizes a crow as well. This is a tattoo on Curve's chest that Sarah gives him in the new movie, or in the second movie, I should say. So look at these shots. Vincent Perez looks awesome. They try to make him look like a priest. And then here's Sarah painting the painting that you see in the movie. When you watch the movie all the way through, she starts off the movie painting this, and then at the end of the movie, this painting comes to life. This is it right here. She's painting a guy holding her while she dies, and boom, that's the end of the movie. Is he holds her while she dies. Really good. I think they did a great job. Like I said, there's a really good movie hiding inside an okay movie. Like I see potential in The Crow, City of Angels, but that's because I know of another cut that exists, and for that reason is why I give the movie a pass, because I know deep underneath all that and all the editing and everything and all the stuff they chopped out, that Harvey Weinstein chopped out, I know that there's a great film in there somewhere. It looks interesting though. Oh, The Crow's great. You got to give it a chance. It's one of my top 10. It's actually one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time, The First Crow. So please check it out. I watch it every Halloween. I watch it every Devil's Night, which it's not called Devil's Night anymore, but I watch it every October 30th. listening to you talk about it is making me want to check it out. My dad owns a movie. I think he'll be surprised if I ask to watch it. I'm telling you, especially if your dad likes that movie, that would be a great bonding moment with you two. Watch the first one, even watch the second one if you want. The second one's about a father and son. It's not as good, not nearly as good as the first movie, but that's what we're talking about here today. Is that a lot of people talk about release the Snyder cut. There is a Tim Pope cut of The Crow 2 out there that is like 30 minutes longer, and it's apparently much stronger, better movie, at least from all the information I've been able to gather over the years. And I don't even know everything, but I know a lot. Like the painting Sarah does, where she paints her own death. There's originally the movie opened with someone on horseback riding a horse, and their face is painted like a crow, and they have long hair, and a crow is flying over them. And that was originally a setup for the original ending of this film, which showed that that person riding on horseback was Sarah, so that she is in the afterlife now as a crow, or whatever. And so there was like a lot of ideas that never got put into the final product. But yeah, these shots with Ash, like, they're really good. They did a lot of glam rock stuff in this movie too, so a lot of things looked very glam and goth glam too. But I think it adds to the look of the movie because it's L.A. They're doing like a fictionalized hyper version of LA, and I think they did a great job at it. So yeah, all these shots. There's Thomas Jane. Yeah, some good stuff. I think this actress, I can't remember her name, but I think she was in Event Horizon. I don't know. I could be blanking on that. Thomas Jane and The Crow. Look at that shot, man. That's so good. Look at that emotion. Like Vincent Perez nailed it. He's a great Crow. I gotta say, to follow Brandon is gotta be the toughest act to follow, but he did a really good job because he did it different. He made the character his own. He approached it from a different angle. He approached the pain from a different spot because he's like, yeah, what's as David Goyer says, what's more horrifying than losing your wife? Well, being shot right next to your son is pretty bad too. So he comes at his pain from a different area, and they get shot and they get dumped into the LA River, and that's where he comes back to life. Boom, comes out of the water there. And you can see that in the image back there too. Yep. Good stuff. Cinematography is amazing. Like I said, Vincent Perez, I kept wanting him to go on and be just like, get a bunch of movie roles and do a lot of cool stuff, but or maybe even continue this franchise in some way. But yeah, unfortunately never did. He did go on to be in Queen of the Damned, though. He played Marios in that, and he was great in that as well. If you've ever seen that movie. That Noah story sounds cool. Yeah, the Noah thing was great. Like that James O'Barr thing. I always said if I got to make my own Crow movie, I would open with that story. I would take that James O'Barr story and be like, all right, the Crow is gonna be that. Like it's gonna start off with the Noah. It's gonna start off on a boat with Noah and have him send off the dove and the crow, and then the dove's gonna come back and he's gonna look out and wonder where the crow went, and then cut to modern day and get into the story. So yeah, and there's a lot of Crow movies that never got made. They were going to do one with Rob Zombie. I have the script somewhere. It's called The Crow 2037, and it was about a young boy and his mom who get killed, and then the boy comes back, but he can't find the killer in the 2 days that he has to find him. So he ends up staying on Earth and just being alive again. And it takes him 27 years to find the guy who killed him. So by that point, the Crow is a grown up. He's an adult. He's 27 years older, and he finally gets his revenge on the guy who killed him and his mom. But the studio didn't want to do that movie because it didn't have as much action in it. It was more of a horror movie, which kind of the first movie has horror elements. So yeah, and then check that out. It's a chase card. Sweet. Yeah, there are these every once in a while. There's like these Legends of the Crow. This is Val Merrick. Hanging from a fire escape, the Crow is ready to drop down on some alley scum and deal out long-awaited retribution. This Crow was flawlessly depicted by comic veteran Val Merrick. Merrick started drawing horror comics in the 70s. He was the first artist to draw Howard the Duck. His work had appeared in Heavy Metal, Warren horror magazines, and various Marvel titles. Recent projects include Magic the Gathering, Bruce Lee, The Badger, and Bram Stoker's Burial of the Rats. And this is from Revenge from Above. That's pretty cool. Looks great. I'm going to add that over here. Yeah, that story sounds epic. Yeah, for sure. The art is crazy. The art is amazing. So that's why when I see new comics like that new Tim Seeley, it's like The Crow meets Hack Slash or whatever the hell it's called. My roommate was going to buy a copy. He went to the comic store down the street and asked them to reserve one for him. And when it came out, this a couple months ago, and when it came out, I went there with, I beat my roommate there, and I got there early, and I looked at the comic, and I just took one look at the artwork, and I said, F this book. I got so mad, and I was like, no offense to the artist. I'm sure the artist does great work, but in my mind, not a Crow book. Like, I'm so sorry. The Crow, if I don't see on the Crow, if I see written and drawn by, that's what I want to see, because that means I know one artist gave their all to that book, like James O'Barr did. And like I said, you're never going to match that intensity. So you got to at least go halfway. So if I see something that says written by so-and-so and drawn by so-and-so, and it's followed by the Crow titles on it, I'm automatically less interested to check it out. Even though the other Crow books like Dead Time introduced me to artists like Alex Maleev. And then there was a bunch of other ones. There was the one with the female Crow, Iris, I think her name was. And there was other artists like Kyle Hotz, So the Crow franchise introduced me to a lot of great artists that had styles that were abstract and weird and unique, but very focused too, like James O'Barr's was. And so I liked a little of those beginning Crow comics, like Dead Time and stuff like that. But as it went on, and people were just trying to cash in on the name, they just started bringing in artists that I'm like, it's like, oh, this is this person's like third or fourth book. And I'm like, yeah, but they have a very go look at the new Crow comic that's out there now. It doesn't look anything like most of these books like that I have up here. Even the Crow City of Angels one, like the artwork in that one's pretty good considering it's a movie adaptation. And it is written and drawn by two different people, but it's copying the movie, and it follows the original script. So that's the other reason I own it, is because some of those deleted scenes that didn't make it into the movie are in the comic book too, and in these cards. So this is a good way to like own those moments for a fan like me. Look at that shot. I mean, come on. Can I? Yeah, that's so good. His reflection, so good. Oh man. Whoa. Another chase card. That's awesome. This is the kind of art I'm talking about. Like it needs to feel like art. Like if you draw a comic book style where it's like, I'm not gonna accept your art on a Crow comic. I'm not. I don't know. Maybe it's too pretentious or something of me, but this is how I feel. I need something like an image like that evokes something out of you. Is going to do more than someone who's trying to do like their version of a Jim Lee style or their version of like a Stuart Immonen style or something. It's like, get that stuff out of Crow comics. Like Crow comics need to feel stuff. And that's the problem, is that a lot of them don't. And that's why I don't like a lot of them. So this is by Chris Moeller, Dark Angel. Chris Moeller weighs in on his expressionist Crow. So this is an expressionist drawing that he did. A Darkwing Angel Return to Earth. Moeller is the man responsible for Shadow Empires, a fully painted science fiction series from Dark Horse. Moeller will continue the saga in a new series of Iron Empires coming soon from DC. Look at that. I love these cards. They like give little shout outs to the artists and stuff. That's awesome. The black and white color concept is cool. Oh yeah, for sure. Wait, which one is in Event Horizon? Oh, the girl. There was a lady. Let me see. I think she is. I can't remember. Like my memory is for shit, as you know. And sometimes it's really scary, spot on, but sometimes it's not. Let me see if I can find that lady. I think she played Sam Neill's wife, like in flashbacks. So let's see. Let's see if oh, there's the other chase card. Let me put that there. Wow. How soon was she? Maybe she was back here. I don't know. I'm sure we'll come across her card again. Yeah, I don't know. I lost track of her. If I come across her card again, we'll Oh, there she is. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I think she's plays Sam Neill's wife for those brief flashback scenes. And the only reason I kind of remember that is because I saw both movies around the same time, even though I think Event Horizon came out maybe first, but I think I was watching those movies around the same time, the second Crow and that one. I saw the second Crow in the theater opening day. My mom took me, and I remember her being like, wow, this is nothing like the first movie. Like there's a scene where Thomas Jane is like like masturbating at at like a nudie booth or something, and my mom's just like, what the hell am I letting my son watch? She's like, this was not anything like the first movie. But I'm like, oh, the first movie has a pretty brutal scene in it. So and so does the second one. I mean, there are movie, they're rated R movies. So yeah, they're not really for kids. Let's see. I hope that cut is released. I mean, I've been waiting for it for what 13 years now. Almost 13 years now. So no, I don't think the Pope cut is ever going to get released. And who knows if they even kept that footage anywhere. I mean, that's Miramax, and who knows if they kept any of that stuff. And then also, oh, look at that Iggy Pop. I love Iggy Pop, man. He's so good. I love him, man. The music's amazing. That shot there with where they make the crow out of glass. That's something they added for the movies, I think. I don't remember the comics really doing that too much. I think it did happen in the comics, but I don't know how often. There's also some lines in the comic that didn't make the first movie. So like Eric, originally in the comic book, Eric Draven, Brandon Lee's character, is a mechanic in the comics. But for the movie, they changed him to be, I think, a lead singer of a band, or bass guitarist of a band or something, or lead guitar of a band. Called Hangman's Joke. So they changed his backstory, and they were fighting evictions in their neighborhood, and that's what got them killed, basically, was because they took a stand to fight for other people in their neighborhood that didn't make a lot of money, that didn't have a big income, that were trying to keep a roof over their heads, and they stood up for that, and they were fighting different evictions in their building and helping neighbors try to keep their houses and stuff against, like, corrupted landlords, and that eventually trickled up to the villains of the movie, and they sent in a team to kill them. So that's ultimately what got them killed. In the second movie, Ash Corvin, who is a mechanic, because they said, oh, they didn't make Eric a mechanic in the first movie, so they made Ash a mechanic in the second movie. And him and his son Danny witness a murder, and because they're witnesses, that's what gets them killed. So yeah, just wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. Dude, you're right. IMDb confirmed. Am I right about that lady? I thought, because I was wondering, like I said, I kind of saw those movies together, and that info, like her face I don't recognize her face, but that info of, oh, that's the lady from Event Horizon, that info's always been in my head. So, okay, cool. I'm glad to know I'm right about that. Holly Chant is her name. Holly Chant. We'll give her a shout out. Holly Chant. Yes, awesome. Well, she plays a small part, and she's the girl that Thomas Jane is masturbating to in this movie. But then in Event Horizon, she plays Sam Neill's wife, who's dead, but the Event Horizon brings her memory back to try to possess Sam Neill. If you haven't seen Event Horizon, it's hard to say I love that movie, but I certainly don't turn it off when it's on. So I guess there's something to that. All right, more tattoos. We got Danny. There's Danny, the boy who dies. He draws a blue sun, as he says. His vest here is a little big on him, and the reason for that is because when Ash comes back, the vest is what he wears. He puts on his son's vest. So it's kind of like the first Crow movie. Eric Draven puts on the makeup of the Crow, and it's based off of a tragedy mask that Shelley bought and owns. And so it's kind of him wearing war paint in a way, but in a way also bringing a piece of Shelley with him, like, all right, this was Shelley's, and I'm going to wear it to attack evil with, so that a part of her's with me. So in this one, because the Crow face paint comes from Sarah, who knew Eric Draven when she was a young girl, she puts the face paint on him, but he wanted something to wear of Danny's to kind of represent that as well. And so he wears Danny's vest. So it looks a little big on Danny here, and it's small on him when he wears it, but he wears the trench coat over it. But yeah, when he wears it, his like belly's out, like, he's got a flat stomach, so it's not like a gut is sticking out, but it's a neat look. I don't know. I like the choices made in this movie. I really do. There's him getting his face painted when he gets back from the dead. Great shot too. Oh, so good. And then him on the motorcycle, like, how cool is that? Yeah. Oh, another chase card. That might be, who's the artist? Is that Kyle Hotz? No. Dean Rohrer, A Murder of Crows. This is one of the other tie-in comic books. Wally Wood worshiper, Dean Roarer, Wally Wood, what a great artist, brings a classic comic look to The Crow in his version. Roarer's work has been seen in Weird Business, Duplex, Planet Illustrated, and Bizarre Hands. His illustrations grace the covers and pages of numerous books and record albums. A pensive crow looks out over a crow-studded cornfield. That's pretty good. It looks a little Sandman-ish, minus the hair. He looks a little bit like Eric Mabius, kind of. That's cool. So yeah, thanks for that info. All right, about Holly. All right, so we got more tattoos. So one of the looks that Tim Pope said he wanted for the Crow in this one is he wanted him to kind of look like a priest. So the coat, the way it's designed and cut, is when it's open, it looks more intense. See, there's his belly showing too because the vest is too small. But when you button it up, it looks like a priest robe. And the other reason they designed it this way is when he rides his motorcycle later on in the movie, the backs or the flaps of the coat flap like crow wings when he's driving. So when they were filming it, they were like, wow, look at that. And so they actually, I think, tailored the coat to do that, which is pretty cool. That's where he fights Curve. So I said there's a line earlier, lines that were in the first Crow comic where he talks, it's like a poem, a nursery rhyme, and it goes like 1 crow sorrow, 2 crows joy, 3 crows a letter, 4 crows a boy, 5 crows silver, 6 crows gold, 7 crows for a secret never to be told. And that was like a nursery rhyme in the comic that never made it to the first movie. So they actually let Ash say it in this movie. So again, they really paid attention to things that were omitted from the comics that ended up in the first movie that weren't in the first movie, and they try to like fit him into Ash and give him to his character. And that just shows the level that David Goyer really does put into his work. For a guy who started off writing Steven Seagal movies, he's gone on to write some really awesome stuff. And I don't know, sometimes I think it's I know some of his work is not great. I know Guillermo del Toro was like, when he read the script for Blade 2, he was kind of like, oh, some of these lines are pretty bad. And, but overall, he liked the concept of it, but he changed some things. And then so when David Goyer got to direct the third Blade, he was kind of like, yeah, I don't have anyone to change my stuff. And then look what happened. Like the third Blade is not a bad movie, but it's definitely everyone's least favorite Blade movie. At least from what I understand, most people think or share my opinion that that's not the best Blade movie, but it's not a bad movie by any means because Ryan Reynolds is really great in it. Yeah, so it's hard to say. With Goyer, he's kind of hit or miss sometimes, but when he hits, like it's a knockout of the park. That's for sure. Hello there. What's up, Cucumber Cane? Bob says, I'm definitely loving the Sandman reminiscent art. Yeah, that does look a little Sandman-ish. This is from Day of the Dead at the end. They the final battle is with Judah Ertl is during a Day of the Dead parade. It's also where the band The Deftones made their first on-screen appearance. And they actually, when they were recording this movie, in the diary of the film book back there, one of the people who worked on the movie, one of the producers or something, said they filmed really late that night. And they said the band, The Deftones, every take they did, they brought the same amount of energy on every single take, which is not easy to do when you're on a 12-hour film shoot or something, especially at night when it's like 3 a.m. But apparently the Deftones were super professional and did what they always do, which is kick a lot of ass and sound good while doing it. And so I was kind of cool to hear that backstory on them and how they did that. But this was the first time I'd ever seen the Deftones or heard their music. And they even recorded their scenes from this movie before their first album had come out. And I think their first album came out around the time that this movie came out. But the song they put on the soundtrack for The Crow 2 was called Teething. And I believe it was not on their album. It was something they made exclusive to the soundtrack of this film. So yeah, really cool stuff. Yeah, there's a good shot of the crow. Caw-caw! I love that in the first movie, Michael Wincott. You got to watch, if you ever see the first movie, his character doesn't have a name. In the comics, I think he's called like Top Dollar or something like that. But in the movie, no one ever calls him by any name. So except for one scene where one of the guys, Grange or something, goes, is the man in? And he's like, no, he's taking a meeting. And that's the only time he's ever referenced as anything. So in the end credits, it says Michael Wincott, the man. And if you're a fan of Final Fantasy, if you're like a big Final Fantasy VII fan like I am, Michael Wincott, I think would have made a great Sephiroth. especially when you see his performance in The Crow. He's got long hair, and the final fight is on top of a church, which is kind of reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII, and which, obviously came out before Final Fantasy VII, but they fight on top of a church, and it's like a sword fight, and it's freaking awesome. So yeah, I always thought Michael Wincott, he plays the man in The Crow 1, but I always thought he would have made a good Sephiroth back if they made the movie back then. There was also, what was it, WCW, for you wrestling fans out there. The first time they showed a clip of the Crow City of Angels, they showed this scene here with Curve and Ash, when Ash is coming to get his revenge on Curve, and they showed I think an early cut version of this scene, not the theatrical cut. Maybe the one that ended up in the quote unquote director's cut, but not the theatrical one. And in this scene, Ash goes after him, but they showed that on WCW because I guess there was a guy named Sting that used to wrestle in WCW, and he wore crow face paint. And so to promote the movie, they bought a time slot from Monday Night, whatever the wrestling thing's called. And I know some of you out there be like, how do you not know this stuff? It's like, yeah, man, I don't know, man. I vaguely watched wrestling as a kid, mainly because my little brother did. But yeah, just wasn't as into it, I guess. And so I love these shots, man. Like, but that face right there is so good. So yeah, anyway, on WCW, they bought some time during one of the commercial breaks to show 2 minutes of the movie. And that was the first time any footage outside of a trailer was seen for The Crow City of Angels. Hello there, hello. I think there's an argument to be made that Blade Trinity is a bad movie. Whoa. Goyer wrote Dark City? Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, no, he was one of the writers. I think there was like 2 or 3 writers on Dark City. But yeah, he was one of the writers. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people really do hate Blade Trinity. I don't hate the movie, but I don't even think it's a good movie. I just think it's okay. Like if it's on, I watch it, but I don't turn it off. It's kind of like Event Horizon, where I'm like, all right, I don't like this movie really, but there's nothing else on, and I don't want to flip through the channels. So yeah, I mean, of course we don't have that problem nowadays, but I'm an older guy, so that's how I still review things, is by late 90s standards. So look at that. There's a shot of all the bad guys. There's what's his name? I forget Thomas Jane's character's name. There's Spider Monkey, Curve, Callie, and it should say on here, Curve takes aim. It's too much. Nope. It doesn't. Nemo. Yep, Nemo. His name is Nemo. So yeah. Oh, what's up, Suki? I'm sorry, I missed your message. Where did you get this box set? This I bought on eBay for $10, and then it cost like $2 to ship it. I already had one of these. I had one of these as a kid when they first came out. I think they were like 30 or 40 bucks for a box of these trading cards. And then a couple years ago, I made a Seek and Destroy episode. And like I said, I think it was around episode 53, 54. And I think that's what episode we're on now for the Seek and Destroy vlog. So I figured, now since I had to delete that episode, or I deleted it on, some of them by accident. So when I was like, since that episode's gone, let's redo it. And let's talk about the Tim Pope cut, which I've never been able to talk about on this channel before. And so I have my original trading cards in this binder here. So I have the whole set. But I just wanted to go through these, show some of the artwork, some of the shots of the movie, and just talk a little bit about the Tim Pope cut in general, and then just the Crow in general. Because like I said, I think for the most part, I mentioned everything for the Tim Pope cut. I mean, yeah, just like the Snyder cut. There was a version of the movie. I don't know if they screened it or not, but either way, Harvey Weinstein didn't like it. He said it was too long and too boring, and not enough action in it, and they wanted a straight action movie. They wanted to ride the hype from the first movie, and the first movie, although it has some great action in it, I would not categorize it fully as an action movie. I would say it's a horror love story, gothic horror love story that is, I would say, aimed towards young angsty people, and that's kind of its core audience. And I think that's why there's such a love for it, is because a lot of people who watched it when it came out that were in their like early teens, or or like 11, 12, or early teens, or 15, 16, like it covered that demographic. And now all those people are my age now, they're like nearing 40, and they have this strong love for this franchise, or this first movie at least, because they remember it being kind of romantic in a gothic way. And I think that was the gem of the first movie. And it sounded like David Goyer understood that. And so when he wrote this one, he wanted to focus on that and have some action scenes for, when the crow gets his revenge. But him and Tim Pope wanted to build naturally to those action scenes, and they wanted things to, they wanted you to feel, for these characters and for Sarah and for Ash, because the way the movie was going to end, they wanted that feeling to be earned, and they wanted the sadness that you're going to feel to be earned. And Weinstein and all those guys didn't feel that way, and so they butchered the movie, and they cut it down to like 80 something minutes or something. It's like a really short movie. It's like 86 minutes, and I think the director's cut's like 95 minutes. It's not that big of a difference. But in the director's cut, I use that term loosely because it's actually not a director's cut. Tim Pope had nothing to do with it. Here's Kelly Jones. That's cool. I think I have that one already. Kelly Jones. Up from the depths, Kelly Jones' grimacing crow captures a defining characteristic, pain. Jones draws Batman for DC, where he has also achieved renown for the 2 Deadman series with Mike Baron. Jones is also responsible for Dark Joker and Aliens Hive. All things I have read because I love Kelly Jones's artwork. Also, a Venom artist did a Venom. What was the one with Juggernaut? The Evil Within? No, it wasn't Evil Within. That was the Morbius one. Madness. Venom the Madness. Great artist. I do agree that Ryan Reynolds shines in Blade Trinity. He certainly does. Cucumber Kane says Sting was the Ultimate Warrior's tag team partner, and after they split up, he became the Crow Sting character, which is more dark and serious. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I do not know wrestling lore, but I do remember watching that program just to see the Crow scene. This shot here, this image here, this is the drug that Judah Earl creates. And I can't think of the name of it. I might say it on there. Don't panic. I can't remember, or no, don't point. I can't remember what the name is, but anyway, so they came up with this image, and this is like, they have it's like a black powder. It's like a cocaine, but it's black. It almost looks like gunpowder in a way, and people snort it. And that's the big drug that's sweeping over LA. So when Ash is getting involved, it's much like Eric Draven's story. He thinks he's just getting revenge on the guys who killed him and his wife, but it kind of exposes this corruption, this city corruption. And then there's a guy at the top who runs all the crime. He's like a kingpin, and that's what Judah is. And Judah is poisoning literally kids on the street. So when Ash gets his revenge and kills Judah, it saves the city more, as much as it saves, it serves as his goal of revenge. So yeah, and I think that's why these characters fall more into the hero category and not so much pure anti-hero either. There's like, if there's a gray area between hero and anti-hero, I think that's where the Crow kind of resides. Loving these cards. Yeah, me too. This series is amazing. Like I said, the cinematography in this movie is so great. It's really just something else. Well, what don't you love about Event Horizon? I think it's criminally underrated science fiction horror gem. Yeah, no, I don't hate the movie. I don't love that movie either. If it's on, it's like Blade Trinity. If it's on, I watch it, and I'll watch it till the end. So it's like whatever part of the movie comes in, I'm like, I'm interested enough to leave it on, maybe as background noise. But so I have seen the movie quite a few times for that reason. Like if it's on TV, or if like when I worked at Blockbuster, sometimes I'd be like, I'll just rent it. I haven't seen it in a while. Or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's a Paul Anderson movie. So like a lot of Paul Anderson movies, like the storytelling isn't as good, but the concept is really great. So like Event Horizon, I think, has a really great concept of space travelers looking for a ship that it's almost like the game Dead Space, actually, where they find a ship that it went through hell, literally, like a hell was another dimension, or there's a dimension that looks like hell where there's like you're just chained up and tortured, and all kind of bad things happen to you. And the ship went through that, and it brought some of that energy back out through the other side, back into our reality. And then Sam Neill and his crew and everyone, they find the ship. Yeah, it's a neat concept. But there's just parts of the movie that I'm just like, I don't know. I can't get into specifics because it has been a little while since I've seen it. But I just know the feeling wise, I don't love that movie. But I don't hate it. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate it. But it is fascinating to watch. So I guess it does something right in my eyes. All right, so again, more tattoos. Every pack of cards comes with a tattoo. We got more. We saw that image earlier. That's a good one. The explosion here. Pretty good effects, man. I got to say, this movie did really good with some of the effects. Oops, sorry, it's blurry. With that, all the glass formed a crow on the ground. That's cool stuff. There's a priest. And so Ash's coat kind of resembles his a little bit. Oh, check that out. That's a J. Obar drawing right there. This is from Flesh and Blood. This is the female crow. It's called Necropolis Night. In the High West, Iris Shaw, a federal conservation officer, is killed when her office is dynamited by a ragged wing of right-wing terrorists. So people who say politics weren't in comics before in the 90s, you're dead wrong. they were always in comics for the most part, at least as long as I've been reading them since the 80s. Her tortured soul cannot rest because not only was she unjustly murdered at the time of her death, she was an expectant mother. Raised from her coffin by the crow who answers her thirst for justice. I'm sorry. I'm not even like, there we go. I was totally off screen there. I'm so sorry about that. Iris seeks revenge against the men who killed her and her unborn child. Crow creator James O'Barr worked with James Vance, Batman Legends Dark Knight, and Alexander Maleev, Alex Maleev, like I mentioned him earlier from Dead Time, to create a new female crow in the Crow Flesh and Blood from Kitchen Sink Press. So yeah, our first female crow. Yes, really cool. It's a great image. James O'Barr's art is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I certainly agree that Event Horizon ain't perfect. Well, sure. And I wasn't trying to claim that you were saying that either. But yeah, for me, I'm just like, it's fine. I don't, out of all the Paul Anderson movies, I think that and Mortal Kombat are my favorite of his. And then I feel like I could really just not have to see any of his other movies, actually. All right, so we got more tattoos there. This is a great shot in the movie when Ash is holding up the painting of that Danny gave him before Danny died. Just really great. Oh, sorry, I'm getting notifications. If you hear my phone vibrate, just notifications. There's Danny again holding the painting. This is right before they get shot, Ash and Danny. It's a good shot, man. I like so you'll notice there's yellow is like the lighting. There's a lot of lighting that's yellow and green. In this movie, there's a shot of Sarah with some green lighting. The reason they did that, and they did, like, again, more yellow. The reason they did that is because they wanted LA to feel like this, to have this look about it, like they described it as a jaundice look. If you've never seen someone, don't Google images of that if you have a weak stomach. But if you've seen anyone suffering from something like jaundice and stuff, it's pretty gross. It's sickly. And that's what they wanted the look of the movie to be. They wanted Los Angeles to look sickly. The fog was really bad in the 90s. And so they wanted to, kind of focus on that, but, fictionalize it on a higher level. So yeah, that's kind of what they do in the film is they make the city look sick. So that way, when Ash comes in and kind of cleans it up in a way, indirectly, by the end of the movie, the fog looks back to white again, kind of ish at the end of the movie. And then when he goes to Danny in the afterlife, it's kind of like this nice blue look to him. So it's pretty good. There's Judah, Sarah, and Hope. Oh, we got another chase card. Nice. Look at that one. All right. Let's read that real quick. Kevin O'Neill, Bulletproof. Being shot in the back won't stop Kevin O'Neill's crow. O'Neill first achieved recognition for his work for 2000 AD, working with writer Pat Mills. O'Neill created Martial Law, the ultimate anti-superhero of the 80s. O'Neill has since drawn Batman, Tale of the Dark Knights, and Death Race 2020. That's cool. Yep. It's a good piece of artwork. Oh, can you see it? There we go. Boom, boom. That. Cool. Yeah, we don't have many cards left. We'll just start chipping away at them now. Agreed about Paul W. Sanderson. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the guy. I can, at one point in my life, I defended the first Resident Evil movie, but when I go back and watch it, I hate it as much as I hate the other ones. I hate it because of how much it doesn't capture the spirit of Resident Evil at all, and how it has just the flattest, most boring characters. It's like, now granted, if you go back and play the original Resident Evil game, I'm not going to sit there and lie and say the characters are fleshed out, uh, because they're not really. And you get enough about them to understand motivation, and that's kind of what Paul did for his movie. But it's like, dude, you're a movie, and now we're like 15 year, or at that point, I think they were like 6 years past the original game. So it's like there was more learned about the characters by then. So I'm like, why didn't you just make a movie that, had at least better characters in it? Like, I love Millie Jovovich. If you would have had her play Jill Valentine, and she was like a special forces member, and she was the focus of the movie, and like Chris was, played by someone else who got taken away by Wesker or something, like, all right. Or even if you didn't want to do the exact story, it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand his thought process. And because I don't understand his thought process or agree, like when I hear him in interviews, I'm like, I don't agree with that at all. I feel like he just misses. I think because he did Mortal Kombat, and he's like riding the popularity of that. Like, so whenever he goes into a room, he goes, I made Mortal Kombat. And they're like, oh, that's the most successful video game movie of all time. And he's like, yeah, so let me do whatever I want. And they're like, okay. And it's like, dude, how much good faith can he have from that one movie? I mean, Mortal Kombat's a good movie, but it's not like 20 years of good faith good. And then look at that, Judah Earl there. He kind of becomes a crow. I don't want to spoil too much of the movie. I mean, the images probably already do a lot of that, but yeah, these shots are good, man. Just really good. Really good cinematography, really good camera work. Tim Pope did great. He did a couple of short films and a couple of The Cure music videos for the band The Cure, I think it was. And then this was like his first big Hollywood American movie, and it gets butchered, and it got him to, like, kind of not quit the business. I think he still directs stuff, but he just does it overseas. He just doesn't work in Hollywood anymore, because of the experience of having his movie butchered. Because that's what Hollywood will do. They'll promise you things like, oh, we want to celebrate you as an artist, and we want to focus on you as an artist, and give you your vision. And then, of course, you do your vision, and they're like, well, you know what? We paid for this, and it's our movie. And they're kind of right in that regard, but still, they're really good about leading you, and then saying, oh, you know what? We changed our mind. So check this out. That's actual concept art, I think, for the film. Can I... Boom. The crow flying into Los Angeles. Again, you see the yellow, so it looks like jaundice. I think its thought process was, give me money, please. That's definitely his thought process. And that's fine. And you know what? He makes cheap movies. Like, he can turn a profit. Like, I complain about his storytelling abilities, and his directing all the time, and his lack of continuity or attention he pays to continuity. Even when he himself is the one who wrote like all the Resident Evil movies, and yet none of them can follow their own continuity. They're like, oh, the world dried up in the third movie, and rivers and lakes and dried up. And then in the fourth movie, they show you rivers and lakes and oceans. And you're like, those aren't supposed to exist anymore. Like, what are you talking about? You said in the last movie they dried up. And then, like, oh, the creator of the virus, his daughter was the impetus for this. And then it's like, oh, but in the sixth movie, they retcon all of that and say that it was a different scientist with a different daughter. And it's like, okay, whatever. So they can't even keep their own stuff together. So yeah, I don't like him as a storyteller, but I will say, from a business standpoint, I see why he gets work, because he'll tell you, hey, I can make a movie for $40 million, and I can promise I'll make you a profit off that. And then he does every single time. So he knows what he's doing from a business standpoint, but maybe he should be a producer and not a writer-director. This darkly beautiful vision of the decaying city of angels was produced as reproduction concept art by Will Reese. A large number of sketches were produced prior to the start of the filming in order to visualize the dark world inhabited by Ash, Sarah, Judah, and Curve. A lone crow flies over the city. Yeah, concept art. That's cool. Beautiful. Thank you all again for being here. 4 people in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with me talking about the crow. More tattoos. These cards are stuck together. It's so awesome to see this. I might make a set of these and give them away to somebody, because this is beautiful. I mean, I already have a set of these, so if I can make 1 or 2 sets, maybe I'll gift them to somebody. But yeah, these are nice. Cool. I haven't seen any of the checklists yet. The checklist, that was when I opened that first box like a couple years ago. I remember it was like in the last 2 packs, the checklists were in there. And I was so scared I wasn't going to get them. I was like, oh man, if I don't get the checklist, I don't have a complete series. But luckily I found them right at the end there. So yeah, Thomas Jane. There's the lady, Holly. So big shout out to her again. Yeah, there's the Crow. Some good images here. Oh, look at that. We got another bonus card. I found a lot of these in this box. Danijel Zizelj. I'm sorry for butchering your name if I am. Electric Crow. With brilliant colors and graphics, Danijel has created a stunningly different look for the Crow. Danijel was born in 1967 in Croatia, where his first comics were published. Moving to Italy in 1991, he quickly drew and published 4 graphic novels: The Rhythm of the Heart, Sun City, not Sin City, Sun City, Sophia and Rex. And Zizelj currently lives in Seattle and is working on a 400-page story, Geronimo X. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen any more of their work, but it's a nice card. It's art. It's this doesn't look like Jim Lee or Rob Liefeld art. It doesn't look like, like I say, Stuart Immonen, and it's not to poke at those guys. I think they're all talented artists, but in modern comics, I see a lot of people, artists in general, trying to kind of copy their styles, and this just doesn't work for stuff like the Crow. Like you got to have an actual style to do the Crow, at least for me. Like I'm not going to read your book if it looks like, I don't know, like if it looks like it plays it safe and it's just like basic panel layouts and boring structure and squared faces or whatever the heck people draw now. It's like when I saw that newer Tim Seeley book, I took I flipped through like 3 pages and I physically got upset. Like that's how much I care about this. Like I'm like, oh man, I want to be an editor on a Crow book, and I want to go out there and find someone like an artist and be like, all right, I love your art. It's weird, it's abstract, and sometimes it's out there, and I want you to write and draw a Crow book. And then if they go, well, what if it's not any good? I'm not really a writer, whatever. It's like, yeah, but you're a visual storyteller, and we'll make it work. I'm your editor, and we're going to make it work. That's how I would approach a Crow book if I had the property rights to it. And I know that sounds easy, like it's like, oh, that's easier said than done. Absolutely, it's 100%. It's easier said than done. I'm not going to argue with you there, but I would put more work into finding the right talent for a book like The Crow. And I probably wouldn't have The Crow crossover with characters like Hack Slash and Evil Dead or stuff like that. I probably wouldn't do that. I'm not into gimmicky stuff with something like The Crow. The Crow has a really cool self-contained mythology of its own, and it doesn't lend itself to me to like crossover stuff. Like Evil Dead is fun and campy stuff, and it should cross over with other franchises. Or if you want to do Transformers team up with the Ghostbusters, it's like, that's fine, I don't care. Or Star Trek and Green Lantern, I'm like, those are 2 big franchises, it's fine. But I'm too precious with The Crow. That's just how I am. So yeah, Sarah giving someone a tattoo. She's a tattoo artist. Sarah's a big inspiration for me moving out to LA. The character, excuse me, the character in this movie, she was in Detroit. She had a bad upbringing, and she was trying to get away from it. And she went to the furthest place possible to get away, and that was Los Angeles. So it's furthest away as far as like traveling by land only and staying in the United States. She went from Detroit to Los Angeles to create her own life there. And the implication is maybe her mother relapsed and went back into drugs, and she had nowhere else to go. That's the implication. They don't say that. It's the implication. So anyway, because she never calls her mother in the movie. So yeah, there's that. And so because of that, I was like, you know what? I had a good upbringing as far as like my mother's side goes, but other things I'm like, no, there is some demons I'm running from. And that led me to the City of Angels as well, kind of mirroring Sarah's move out here. So yeah. Again, like these movies, even though the second one I don't love, it still pushed me in a way and got me to go out to the world. The first movie got me to look at movies a different way. So yeah, it's like this, I owe more than I think sometimes to this franchise. Gene Fama, Scream of the Crow. A disturbing interpretation of the Crow comes from cartoonist Gene Fama. Fama's work has appeared in The Real Stuff, Real Schmuck, and Grit Bath. He drew the adaptation of Little Shop of Horrors for Cosmic Comics. Yeah, that's creepy as hell looking. Yeah. Wow, that's weird. Crow versus Deadpool? No, I'll pass on that one. Yeah, I know it sounds like a great setup, but I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. Sounds like something that would already exist. Yeah, sounds like it could be a wild story. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about The Crow is that it is a franchise of its own. I think IDW has the rights to it now, and of course that's what they're going to do with it. They're going to try to cross them over with other things, trying to gain, garner more exposure. They've done solo Crow books since they've had the franchise. They've done they even had John Shirley, who wrote the script for the movie, come in and do like his own version of the Crow, that isn't tied to what he knew before. And it's all right, but again, like I'm just like I love John Shirley. I love the work he did for the first Crow movie. But I think Alex Proyas and Brandon Lee really elevated the material to get to the point where I is why I love it so much. So so for me, like when I saw John Shirley's name, I'm like, let's see what he does. And when I read it, I was like, it's fine. But that's the thing, is it's just fine. Like, and that's my problem with a lot of these Crow books that IDW put out, is that they're just fine. Like Curare, the Skinning of the Wolves one, I think it was called, or something of the Wolves. I have them all. Like, that's the thing, is I own them all, but I get frustrated that I own some of them because I'm just like, whatever. I bought them because it's the Crow, but then when I saw that new Tim Seeley one, I don't know, something in me snapped, and I said, you know what? I'm done just buying it because it says the Crow on it. I don't like this. I already visually don't like this, and for that reason, I'm not going to spend any more money on this. And the Crow books I don't like some of the other ones, like because I think even James O'Barr came back and wrote one too, but I think I gave them all away. I just have the ones you see here. I have the book of short stories with the Noah thing somewhere in my closet somewhere. I just didn't want to dig it out. And I have a couple other things, and I think I have a printed copy of the script of both movies, Crow 1 and Crow 2. So yeah, that's pretty much that's where I'm done, I kind of done now when it comes to collecting that stuff. It's got to be more than it's got to be a little bit more. All right, so we got 3 packs of cards left. Are the Crow and Deadman team up? There you go. Get Kelly Jones to draw it. Are those characters' backstories too similar, you think? Yeah. Well, their backstories maybe, but as far as like from a concept standpoint, yeah, they both died. But Deadman died himself. He died a selfish prick, and that's why he's brought back, is because it's almost penance in a way. Like he's got to do selfless things to tip his scale back, so he has to help other people. Whereas the Crow is like he kind of helps himself in a way, and kind of helps the grander scheme of the balance of life and death, or good and evil. But yeah, not really. Yeah, from a concept standpoint, similar. Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, my natural instinct is to say no to that, even though I love both characters. Because my issue is if you're going to do that, are you going to do Eric Draven, or are you going to do a new Crow? And see, to me, like Eric Draven obviously is the Crow. He's the original Crow. But James O'Barr established pretty early on, after that book came out and after the movie came out and was a big hit, that there can be other Crows, like Iris Shaw and the Native American guy from Waking Nightmares. I think there's different Crows. So I don't know, but if you're going to do a Crow crossover with someone, I feel like you kind of want to do Eric Draven, but you really can't, because Eric Draven's story is done. So then that leads you to, okay, we got to create a new Crow, but then you're not invested in that new Crow. So why do you care that new Crow is meeting Deadpool and Deadman? So that's the problem I think these crossovers have, is that they're just like, oh, we're going to introduce a new character. And I'm like, yeah, but who cares? I don't know who they are, and I'm not invested in them. And if you try to do it with Eric Draven, it kind of ruins the Eric Draven story. Check that out. Another Chrome J. O'Barr card. It's beautiful. Bang Bang. Joshua, his soul brought across time by a mysterious crow, seeks to avenge his family's murder over 100 years after it occurred. Wow. Lost in an unfamiliar time, he comes face to face with a present-day biker gang, which bears an uncanny resemblance to the marauding Confederate soldiers who butchered his family. O'Barr has collaborated with John Wagner and Alexander Maleev once again to create an intense comic book experience published by Kitchen Sink. This is from the Crow Dead Time. So yeah, this is the guy who I was just mentioning. I think he's Native American and in Dead Time. I think he said Waking Nightmares earlier, but I think I meant Dead Time. But yeah, he gets killed, and then 100 years later, he's brought back, and he's like fighting kind of the descendants of the Confederate guys that killed him or something. Yeah, you can do a lot with the Crow. The other Crow movies they didn't do. They didn't do the Rob Zombie one, 2037, and there were even rumors at a time that they were going to make a Crow movie starring DMX, and it was going to be about a rapper who gets killed in a gang war, and he comes back and to right the wrongs. And he had, since he's African American, obviously DMX, they were going to paint his face with white paint, like make the lines on his eyes white, and then paint white lips or something. And that was just like a concept art thing, and it was just early talks. Nothing ever came of it. I don't know if they had any meetings about that movie, if it was just rumor. I don't know. But I personally would have loved to seen it because I'm a huge DMX fan. I especially was at the time of those rumors too. And I thought it would have been cool to see a rapper world for The Crow, where the soundtrack wasn't rock music, but actually underground hip hop music, which I was getting into at the time because that was in Atlanta in like 2000, 2001, right before Salvation came out. And I would have really have liked to hear some of those underground hip hop artists that I was a big fan of do a Crow soundtrack. I thought that would have been cool. And the Crow soundtracks, I think the second one and the third one have hip hop songs on them, like one or two. I know they have trip hop songs on them from Tricky, but I think a couple hip hop songs. I think Above the Law was on the second Crow soundtrack. So yeah. Anyway, there's the box. I mean, there's we went through all of them. We'll go through I'm going to pull out my binder here, and we're going to go through and see if I have any new cards to add out of this, because the special one, I know I have the whole series. And look at that, we got no checklists. Like not a single checklist out of that whole box, not one checklist. So I think those are the rarest cards in the set, is the checklist. And like I said, I was scared when I opened my first box that I wouldn't get them. And it turns out they were in the final like 2 packs. So I was kind of hoping that would happen again. But I do not have a complete set here, like a whole box. Luckily, it was only $10. And like I said, it served its purpose. I really just wanted to open it on this show. All the tattoos we'll put there. And we got the bonus cards here and the chrome cards. So let's go through and see what we got. LOL, how many movies of The Crow are there? There are 4 Crow movies. There's The Crow 1, obviously, starring Brandon Lee. There's The Crow City of Angels, which stars Vincent Perez. And then there's The Crow Salvation, which stars Eric Mabius and Kirsten Dunst. That came out in 2000, 2001. And I went to a screening of it at Dragon Con like a year before the movie came out. And for a whole year, I just was like, I had to keep it a secret. Not really too much of a secret, because I think they were trying to get funding for the movie, or a release for the movie. So they were screening it at little conventions, because that's what the first Crow did. Some small convention in Arizona in like 93 or something, or 94. They showed the first, screening to an audience before the movie came out. And so that's what they did with the third one. They were trying to get some buzz on it, get fans excited. And I was a big cheerleader for the third movie, because there were some things in it that I actually did like. And that was the first time I was introduced to Walton Goggins. He plays one of the criminals in that movie. And then soon after, I saw him in a show called The Shield, and he became one of my favorite parts of that show. And then now he's one of my favorite actors to this day. I love Walton Goggins. So that was kind of my first start with him, was I saw him in The Crow Salvation. Then there's a fourth Crow that came out right to video. I think it aired on like Sci-Fi Channel or something. It was like really low budget. The guy who made Six String Samurai, I can't remember his name. Well, the third one was directed by Bharat Nalluri, who was the second unit director, I think, on Black Hawk Down. No, not Black Hawk Down. The Resident Evil. I think he became the second unit director or something on Resident Evil, I think. So didn't have a big resume, but he directed the third one, and I thought he did a pretty good job. It's an okay movie. But the fourth one is terrible. The fourth one stars Edward Furlong, who's obviously from Terminator 2, and he's the Crow. Emmanuel Cherokee, I think she plays, oh man, I forgot. She was on Entourage. I think she's been in some other stuff. But anyway, she was like the love interest, and she's like Native American, and Edward Furlong plays the guy who fell in love with her, and they get killed by the guy who played Angel on Buffy. He's like the villain, and Tara Reid is like his evil sidekick lady. It's bad. It's really bad. So yeah, there's 4 Crow movies, and there's a TV show called Stairway to Heaven starring Mark Dacascos, who I'm also a huge fan of. And the show's okay, but again, it's just okay. But the problem is they did the Eric Draven story, and I was like, and I didn't like that. I was like, no, come on, Brandon Lee is Eric Draven. That's why when they were going to remake it with Jason Momoa, I'm like, don't do it. Like, Eric Draven is Brandon Lee. Stop doing that. If you're going to remake the first Crow movie, have Shelley Webster come back from the dead instead of Eric Draven, and then you can just show Eric in like silhouettes and stuff. So that way you don't kind of undo the amazing work that Brandon Lee put into it. And I know some people are gonna be like, dude, you got to move on at some point. It's like, no, I don't have to at all, actually. So shut the fuck up. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of recasting that role. So yeah, here are the checklists. Checklist 1 and checklist 2. They made them 2 separate cards. Oh, maybe we did get some of those. Oh, never mind. We got a ton of checklists because it's that image there. Yep. That image and that image are the checklists. Wow, I'm an idiot. I didn't even flip those cards over. So we got plenty of checklists. All right, so wait, maybe I can make a set or two. Maybe we'll gift them out to people. All right, so here are my tattoos. This is a collection of tattoos we have. And move this down here. And let's figure this out. Which one am I missing? I think I was missing this one. But let's see, because I have another page of tattoos back here. Nope. So this is the one we were missing. I didn't get any of those in my first box of sets. So yeah, there's 10 tattoos total. We have the crow wings. These are the wings that are on Sarah's back. I think Sarah has a tattoo of these on her back. That's the drug, obviously. There's just a picture of Vincent Perez's gorgeous face. There's the tattoos that Curve had. That's the name of the drug, I think, too, there. Don't point, or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it. Crow. Another crow. That's the one with the bones. That's the symbol for the movie. That's a great image. We have this crow here, which is good. Oh, there you go. You can see it better with the one with the bones. And then we have the eye and the word art. So we have those. So now we have chrome cards. So we have 2. Oh, nope. I have 1 duplicate. Oh, man, that's a bummer. So I have a duplicate, unfortunately. So maybe we'll give that away too. But this is the new Chrome card. So I have 3 of the Chrome cards. I think there's 6 total. Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's an ultra rare chase card, which I'm pretty sure we didn't get. So yeah, so this is a new one. So we'll find a place for that. So now we have the bonus cards. Kelly Jones. So do we have any new ones? Let's see. We have those, and we have 1 more page. So we have a lot of these. So we have that one. So that can go up here. We have that one. We'll go up there. We have the concept art. Boom. We have the image here where he gets shot. Boom. That was on the first page here. So we don't need that one. Wow, man. We may be out of luck. Maybe we didn't get the whole set. We got the Sandman looking one already. So we don't need that. The Tim Bradstreet one. Already have it. The one with the wings right here. That's boom. And this one here, the Death from Above. Oh, wait, is this card 2? Card 4, Revenge from Above. Maybe I didn't put them in order. But 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we don't have it. So boom, look at that. I think we just completed the bonus cards. Nice. All right. And then let me just check. There are 10 bonus cards total, and we got all 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Maybe we'll move these 2 over here so I can put the chrome one in this spot. But yeah, we'll do that later. I'll just put that down there. 4. Got it. Thanks. Yeah, there's 4 Crow movies. So yeah, we got that. Let me get that out of the way. So here are my Crow comics signed by James O'Barr. This is book 1, volume 1 and 2, Pain and Fear, Iron and Despair. And I think there's 2 more, Irony and Despair. And there's 2 more, I think 1 more, volume 3 from this version. These are reprints where they did them in little prestige formats. So yeah, I have these ones signed by him. I don't know if I ever owned the 3rd one or not, but I still trying to hunt one down to this day. Then we have the Crow City of Angels comic book. Look at that image though. So awesome. And that's issue 3, issue 2, and issue 1. And we'll show a little bit of the artwork in here because this was actually included in the reason I knew the comic book existed was because of the soundtrack. The soundtrack came with like a 6-page preview of the comic. So here you have Sarah. So again, they based this comic off the original script. So there are things in this comic that are not in the movie that were supposed to be. So this is the crow landing on an avenging angel. You can't see their face. They got the crow face paint on, and at the end, it's going to be revealed that it's Sarah actually. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And then they cut to this like really chaotic artwork again. Panel layouts a little too close to a standard comic, but they don't pull any punches as far as the hard R stuff with the kid getting shot. I think they raised it to where he didn't get shot in the head though. So they did change. They did kind of dim it down a little bit. There's nudity, so I'm not going to show that, but you see Sarah's back there. Yeah, so there's it's a pretty R-rated comic actually. So, but yeah, the artwork is pretty neat, and I'm trying to think of the artist's name on this one, and I'm blanking. Let me see. It's probably in the back. And then what is cool is they did a Crow City of Angels video game, which you could probably find footage of on YouTube. It was not good. It's not a very good game at all. But there's him dressed, as the Crow. Again, this is too comic booky for me. The only reason I own this and why I read it is because it has scenes in it that were supposed to be in the movie and they got cut. And this is how I knew about the director's cut originally, that this was based off of a script, the script of the movie before they shot it, or while they were shooting it. So they made a video game. It's terrible. They did interviews in the back of the comics. So Crow, Vincent Perez. This made me really love Vincent, hearing him in these interviews. They're really great. And there's a lot more of these interviews and stuff in the diary of the film. So there's really cool stuff in there. But the art was by Dean Ormston, and John Wagner did the script. And John Wagner did work with James O'Barr on a couple of the other scripts. But it says, based on the film Crow City of Angels, that was written by David Goyer, directed by Tim Pope, produced by Edward R. Pressman and Jeff Most, and based on characters created by James O'Barr. And then it lists the Top Dollar Comics people and the Kitchen Sink Press people. And of course, Top Dollar named after the villain, Top Dollar, from the original book. And then there's or from the original, comic book. And then I think in the back of these too, there was a page, like there's the soundtrack. Great soundtrack. Hole, PJ Harvey, Bush, White Zombie, Filter, Tricky and the Gravediggers, Korn, Toadies, Iggy Pop, Deftones, Seven Mary 3, and NY Loose. And Above the Law. They don't list Above the Law in there. Maybe they were a last-minute addition, but Above the Law is also on the soundtrack. So yeah. But Grace Slick. Oh yeah, they don't list her either. Grace Slick is on this soundtrack as well, and yeah, great stuff. So yeah. So in the back of these though, they had there's an Iggy Pop interview. And then they had the complete interactive collection, $39.95, unreleased interviews, photographs, movie clips, production designs, and free internet access software. I don't think I ever owned that, whatever that was. But I did buy a lot of stuff from here, which you could order: Crow stuff, pins, keychains, lighters. I had almost one of everything on here. I had 2 t-shirts, but I had a hat. I had a drinking mug. I had a lighter at one point, a shot glass, a poster, a tattoo pack. I had a lot of this stuff. And then there's, excuse me, the books, the movie book, which I had somewhere, the diary of the book. This is where I found all that stuff. One of the early reprintings of the Crow comic that came out around the time of this second movie, and between the first and second movie. So got those trading cards. Like, this showed me all the stuff. The other comics that were out, Dead Time and all that stuff, couldn't find them at my local comic store, so I ordered them using this. And I cut this page out. Actually, no, I think I went and photocopied this at my mom's work, actually, and then was able to order a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I've been a big fan of this franchise, and I love talking about it. It stirs a lot of emotions in me. I think James created something really special with the Crow, and a little bit ahead of its time in a way, but also like kind of appropriate for the time that the audience who found it came across it. When I recommend it to people, I'm very choosy on who I recommend the Crow to, because I know it's not for everyone. And I would say maybe there's a sense of datedness to it, although the movie feels a little timeless and the message in it feels a little timeless. I also feel like it still has a little bit of a 90s action vibe to it. On the back of the DVD or VHS when it came out, I love the quote by Roger Ebert, I think it was, who said, the best movie of its kind since the original Tim Burton Batman. And boy, to me, was that true. Like, because the original Tim Burton Batman did what I always, I mean, that's my yardstick of as far as like rating Batman movies go, because it wasn't set in reality. I really hate when filmmakers go, oh, I want to ground this character into reality. I want to bring them down to our level and you know, and kind of have that approach to it. And I don't like that approach. I don't think it works at all, because some of these things need to be fantastical. Gotham City, I love that look of it in Tim Burton's movie, because it almost looks like every building was designed by a different architect, and it's just all kind of things on top of each other, built on top of each other, big statues holding buildings up and bridges up, and it just looks so crazy. And in the animated series, it was like Gotham was the, like, what if the 1930s World Fair just continued onward and just took over Gotham? And I love that approach to it. It makes it feel fantastical. And I hate when people come in and go like, oh, I want to make something real. I want to give a reason why a guy would dress as a bat. And it's like, but but can you ever? And the answer is really no. So pinning things to reality doesn't work for me. And that's what I liked about The Crow, was the reality part is the emotion. They go, you know what, we're never going to sell you really on the idea of a guy coming back from the dead, so we're not going to spend a million years explaining how a guy comes back from the dead. You're just going to either get on board with the concept, or you're not, and we're just going to keep moving forward. And a lot of today's audiences don't like that kind of storytelling or respond well to it. So if you didn't grow up with The Crow, I have a hard time recommending it to you for those reasons, because I think the mindset of an audience nowadays is different than it was around this time, when people just kind of liked being buckled into something and sent off on the journey. Some people still like doing that nowadays, but most audiences don't. So for that reason is why I don't recommend it too much. But I wanted to make this episode, and I appreciate you guys sticking out with me. You know, for the Seek and Destroy episode special, this live stream special, so we could talk about a franchise that I really love, and talk a little bit about the Tim Pope cut, you know, just like the version of the Crow City of Angels that could have been a more dramatic movie, a little bit longer movie, where scenes between characters built up the emotion. So that way, by the time you got to the action scenes meant something. And that's what I like. And if you go back and watch any interviews of Brandon Lee, like his last recorded interviews when he was, you know, filming the movie, and, you know, when he was still alive, and they were filming interviews with him on set, there was all these great interviews where he talks about the character, and he really did dive right in. He said, you know, I read the script first, and then I read the comic, and the two words I hear about constantly to describe the comic is pure. That's one of the words that I see, and incandescent, and which is also a word that Brandon Lee uses in his last interview, but also someone else, or maybe one of his interviews, but someone else used to describe Brandon Lee. They said his performance in the first Crow was absolutely incandescent, and when I heard that, I couldn't agree more. Incandescent means kind of lit from within. And that's what it was. And he even says in his interviews, like, I don't know if I was destined to play this character, but I'm very grateful to have been given the opportunity to at least try to bring this character to life. And you can just tell he was a very grateful dude, very down to earth dude, a guy with an artistic point of view on things, and wanted to make the best, you know, movies he could. And it's tragic that he was taken away so soon in his life. So thank you guys, Suki, Mr. Matheson, everybody else who's popped in and came here, Cucumber Kane. I appreciate all of you coming in today. I'm going to end the stream now, and I just wanted to say thank you just for kind of listening to me talk about this. If you're new to The Crow, hopefully I said enough to maybe get you interested in checking it out if it piques your interest. I would say if nothing I said interests you at all, maybe just stay away from it, because I don't know if the work clearly and I would recommend the work speak for itself over my words for sure. I'm, you know, trust the comic more than me, but I did feel like I talked about a lot of the themes and stuff that they're approached in, especially the first two movies, but in the comic books as well. So if any of that tickles your fancy, I would say give it a try for sure. And if anything I said doesn't tickle your fancy, then then I would say maybe it's not for you, but also make up your own mind. And if you really are going to make up your mind, pick up a copy of The Crow yourself. If you can find, I don't know if the special edition exists anymore. I don't know what version. I know if you go on Comixology, you cannot find the original Crow comic on Comixology. This one here, you cannot find it. It's not on there. They do all the sequels and the spin-offs and the reboots and the Image comic reboot. They do all those, but they don't have the original on there for some reason. So I think you're going to have to find it in print format, and hopefully there is still one in existence right now. I think the movie this year might have been this was its 25th anniversary for the movie. So I'm glad I got this video in before the end of the year as well, so we could pay tribute to a classic in my mind, an instant classic. The moment I saw it, I knew I was watching something special. And it wasn't just because the actor had passed during it, but it was the performance he gave in this film and the work he put in for something. You think like, to someone on the outside, they're like, The Crow, it's some action movie where a guy's a zombie and he kills bad guys. Like they're going to dismiss it, right? But he knew that going in. Brandon knew that there would be people that would dismiss this movie, and yet he still gave a performance that was unbelievably just above and beyond probably what the movie initially deserved. But because he got on board and because Alex Proyas, the director, got on board, they too saw, what, this movie can be more. And it doesn't have to just be this, dumb action movie. It can actually have a heart to it and leave a resonating factor within people and mess with their emotions and hit them in the heart and hit them in the soul. And they did a good job at that, I feel. And as someone who was young, I was the target audience for this movie when it came out. I would say, 13 to like 19 angsty, teenagers and stuff is the perfect audience for that. And because I watched it at that time and grew up with it at that time, I think that's why it resonates so much with me even now to this day. So thank you guys very much. I really appreciate everything, and I will definitely come back. I don't know if I'll do another live stream tomorrow or whatever. I might go and record a Venom vlog right now and try to get that up tomorrow if I can, because Venom 2099 just came out and I have a few things I'd like to say about that book. So we have 2 episodes left of the Venom vlog. I'll try to get those out pretty soon. And then I'm still working on, I have 3 jobs right now during the holidays. So it's hard for me to get time out to do stuff, but I really want to do something Resident Evil related again. I did 3 history of Resident Evil videos and they're still on this channel. And I want to do 3 more probably in January. And then my goal is to do another 3 more a couple months after that. And then hopefully by that time, Resident Evil 3, the video game, the remake that was just a kind of leaked and stuff. I want to make a couple Resident Evil things coming up. So, and talk about the lore of things, because I have a great friend named Barry, Where's Barry, who has a YouTube channel where he talks about Resident Evil, but he doesn't get into the lore of it. And so because he doesn't, I'm like, there's something. Because whenever I have a friend or someone I like who does YouTube videos, I don't want to do what they do. I don't want to I kind of like what they do. So I don't want to kind of fall in that way. But since he doesn't make lore videos, I'm like, maybe that's my way in. So I did 3 already, and I think I did a really good job on them. So hopefully you can check those out, and then I'll do 3 more at some point in January and tell more of the story of the Umbrella Corporation and the people that work there and lead up to the games. And then my plan after that is to play through Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, the remakes, and edit them together like little movies, and then get all that up in time for the 3rd game to come out. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to try some new things next year, and with live streams, that'll help out because now I can have direct interaction with you guys. And that's something I missed doing when I was on Twitch, and it's been hard not having that all this time. So it's great that this new phone allows me to stream right to you guys. So again, thank you very much. We've talked for 1 hour and 50 minutes, but it was worth it to me at least. And hopefully I opened some of your guys' eyes on a very beloved franchise that I particularly love to pieces. Thanks so much. See you in the future. Peace.